Today we move into the wild world of settings in Mark. The pairing of this with Mark 8 to 10 is somewhat intentional. Jesus and his disciples are moving around a lot, and there's a lot of different things that happen here. You'll notice Jesus also gives 3 passion predictions in the section of text that you read for today. And remember, passion refers to Jesus's suffering and death. And notice where they happen. Where were these places significant elsewhere in the narrative? So we'll do a little bit of kind of diving into how the setting interacts with the relationship between God and humanity, the relationship between humanity and other humans, the relationship humans and other humans, and the relationship to people and geographic locations, sights, smells, and what have you. So welcome to our 4th Friday of class. So what setting can communicate? There's the cosmic setting. This refers to God's relationship, the idea of how the whole is interacting. How might God be interacting with this section of text? The Transfiguration's kind of a freebie there. But the other parts of it are a little more of a stretch. There's the cultural setting, the political setting, and the social setting, which I kind of collapse all together because you can't have society, culture, or politics like apart from each other. We also have the geographical setting. Are they on a mountain? Are they in a valley? Are they on some water? Where is Jesus, and in this case, his disciples, at the particular time that the event is happening? We also have archaeological settings. We don't have as much of that in Mark, but I think it's in Matthew, both in Matthew and Luke, when the disciples enter Jerusalem, they marvel at the temple and the ornate buildings. So we're going to go a little deeper into each of these. Today's lecture is going to be a quick one. You're welcome. I do have another video that I want you to watch about settings in the Bible to show kind of the valence of all the things that one setting could be relying on. So the cosmic setting is the divine and human stage. This world is inhabited by God and angels, Satan and demons, unclean and clean animals, as well as by humans. This is this world of how the spiritual world and the physical world kind of converge in the Gospels, especially in the person, action, and stories about Jesus. There's also the socio-political setting. It includes a social backdrop of locations mentioned. Is Jesus in a rural area? Is he in a city? Where does he happen to be located at this particular point in time? And how might audiences hear that? So how an audience is going to hear Jesus traveling in Nazareth, his hometown, is going to be different than how they hear Jesus traveling, as we had in our last reading, in Gentile territory, where non-Jewish territory, where he meets people like the Gerasene demoniac. The political backdrop of the locations mentioned. What's going on? If it's a city, the likelihood of there being an army garrison is relatively high. If it's in the country, people may or may not have less amicable relationships with Rome. Subsistence farmers sending most of their crops to Rome when their family barely has enough food to eat would have been a shift in Judea. The cultural backdrop of the locations mentioned. What happens when Jesus goes into non-Jewish territory as a Jew? How does that change people's interactions with him and their responses to him? And from Marcus' story, the rulers, including the high priests, the elders, and other aristocratic landowners, constitute a very small elite group. Notice, those are the main people. When we hear about groups, identifiable groups of people, there's like all of these people who are kind of named, and then the crowds. When in reality, the crowds are like most of the populace. Okay, I continue. The rest of the characters in Mark's narrative world, including Jesus and the disciples, are people who live at or below a basic subsistence level. Remember, Jesus was born to Jewish carpenters. They were on the lower end of the socioeconomic rung, according to both Sawicki and Eslen. And finally, the geographic setting. On the road, on a mountain, in a town, in the fields. This is kind of where my brain kind of does green eggs and ham. On a boat that floats, on a train, on a plane. Are they in a town or are they in the fields? Are they inside? Are they outside? Are they near the temple? Are they in a synagogue? And Marcus' story. In the constant shifting of the settings in Galilee, the hearers are seldom left to linger, but are quickly caught up in the action at the next location. This is where I'm talking about Mark's very quick succession. And then Jesus was in Capernaum, and then he went to Galilee, and back and forth and back and forth. There's this sense in Mark that Jesus is always on the move, and the rapidity of the moves communicate in some ways a sense of urgency. So notice how the settings might communicate narrative time. Do things seem to be happening quickly in the setting or slowly in the setting? How is a narrator kind of hitting the gas or hitting the brakes through the use of a setting? So, for example, if Jesus is in a place for like most of a chapter or a couple of chapters, that's an invitation to pay attention, because Jesus is rarely in one place for more than like 6 to 10 verses. All right, so for today, I want you to put it into practice. I want you to think about the settings in Mark 8 to 10. And do they have any relationship to settings mentioned elsewhere in Mark? And what do those settings look like? So you'll kind of look through the gospel. I'll have you look into the Gospel of Mark and see where else were these places mentioned? What else happened in these geographic locations? And what can we understand about the setting based on that? Have a great weekend, everyone, and I will see you Monday.